And it was here where you, again, your Catholic faith kicked in, and you asked to see Mary, which is a
Yeah.
staple in the Catholic faith, and it responded to you. The light responded to you, saying, "Welcome back to the Real Spiritual Talk podcast. I'm your host, Lamont Gates. Today, my guest had a near-death experience in 1979 and received a message from the light." Joining me today, ladies and gentlemen, is near-death experiencer Sinead Madden. Sinead, welcome to the Real Spiritual Talk podcast.
Thank you.
No problem at all. I thank you for coming on. Now, before we get started, Sinead, I'd like to know when did your near-death experience occur, and what age was it?
I was 17. It was the spring of 1979, and I believe it was the early hours of the 16th of April that year.
Yeah, very interesting. Actually, my birthday was on the 17th, so this is going to be an interesting discussion. So, prior to having your near-death experience, did you have any specific religious beliefs that you held?
I had lots, very Catholic beliefs.
Catholic and Catholicism, and were you deeply rooted in it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, many near-death experiencers are often grown into a particular religion, and a lot of times it's a fear-based type religion. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to now go into what it was that actually triggered your near-death experience to occur.
But actually quite ironic because I was reading the Bible. And in one of Paul's letters, he said that he was caught up into heaven and he saw amazing things that he can't talk about, etc., etc. So I thought, I want that. And there's a religious practice in the Catholic Church where you go the first Friday of the month, every month for 9 months till Easter. And then you get whatever you want, which is a bit naive, but I got what I wanted. So from 9 months before Easter, we did the Stations of the Cross every Friday for 9 months. And then Easter came and I had my near death experience. The goal of my devotion was to see God the way Paul saw God. Paul saw God.
And apparently, you got to see that. But what was it that actually led up to that experience
What led
happening?
up to it? Yeah. I'd watched some telly and I went out for a run. I went a long way and it was dark and I was still running and I was on a narrow dark road and the cars were going faster and faster past me. So I thought, get out of here, you're going to get killed. So I climbed over a very, very big hedge and I lost my footing and I could see some barbed wire. I went to grab it, hoping to just damage my hand and nothing worse. But it slipped and a barb went all the way up from my base of my thumb to my elbow. And then I was in the field, the other side of the road, the other side of the hedge, and I was walking along, and blood was coming out of my forearm like bramble jelly trying to clot, and it just wouldn't clot. Next thing I know, bang, I'm on the ground. So
And
I woke up
while you
on
were
the
on the
ground,
ground,
yeah, yeah,
you felt
blood.
something happening.
Yeah, and I there was no transition, there was no popping or anything. I just got up. I was walking forward, thinking, "Oh, what's wrong? The pain's gone. I don't feel tired. I'm not hurting." And then I looked down and I could see little blades of grass and they were like singing to me. There was an orchard with lovely light and it was beautiful. And it wasn't just looking at something beautiful, it was me. I was the tree, I was the light, I was the grass, and it was all singing to me. It was beautiful.
Now, take us further into the experience, because I know you ended up coming into contact with certain beings and having a conversation with them.
Yeah, there were two or three beings, or about 9 foot tall, great my image of them is they were dressed like monks, but I'm not sure 100%. Anyway, I talked to the first one and I said more or less we were speaking in thoughts rather than words, but it was very clear and it was telepathic. And I said, "Am I dead?" And he said, "Do you feel dead?" I said, no. "I've died, haven't I?" And he said, "You must go to a light and um, go to the light and see this light." And I said I wanted Saint Augustine to pray for me and the Blessed Virgin Mary. And he said, "Yeah, but you must go to the light first. When you're with the light, you will experience heaven."
And when
In
you did that, you met with this light entity. What was the intensity of this light?
oh, it was like on a summer's day when the sun's too bright, it was about 1,000 times brighter than that, but it didn't burn you. And it wasn't just light; it was love, pure love. It was just so lovely, so nice. The music I've been listening to is Elgar's Dreamer Gerontius. The sight of the most fair will gladden thee, but will pierce thee too. And the moment you see God, you know you're going to go away from him, go back to life, or do something else. And it's hard. It's very hard being away from God. It was beautiful, lovely. It was bliss, it was joy, and it was love, and it was non-judgmental.
Did you have any communication with this light?
Yeah, yeah. I said, um, can I see the Blessed Virgin Mary? Can she make it all right with you? Because that's what Catholics believe. It's rubbish. You don't need anyone to make it all right with you. And he said, "I don't care how many Hail Marys you said. I want to know how much love there was in your heart." And that just spoke to me inside. And he said, "Can I show you all the times you were one with me?" And I thought, this is going to pump up my pride. And I was like into this not being proud and being humble, which is stupid because I missed out on my life review. He would have shown me all my life and all the lessons, and I missed out on it because of some religious belief. He also said that there's going to come a time when you're going to really have to try and not go under. And he gave me some, he told me what had happened and I made me forget, but he gave me some clues so I'd remember at the time. The time was 2016 when I got so depressed over someone that I just every day I'd wake up crying and I'd want to kill myself. And I had to not do that. And that was the lesson. These symbols kept coming up in 2016. And I knew then that God was going to help me and I was going to have to get through this depression. And I did.
Do you recall going back into your body and waking up in a hospital setting of any sorts?
Oh, no, no, no. This is the craziest thing. I find it hard to believe myself is that we were, there was also borderline experience and something to do with my family because they're Catholic. But coming back to my body, there was a massive explosion of light and energy, and my heart started beating, and my arm was hurting so much, and I damaged my cheekbone. I had a hangover, like a concussion on my cheekbone, and I was tired, and I had hardly any blood in me, and I got up somehow and walked to this light, which was a farmhouse. And the dog, all the animals reacted differently to me after that. And the dog didn't attack me. And the man came out. It's all a bit fuzzy. I can remember what happened in the experience, but what happened afterwards, it's all a bit. I remember a guy in a old banger of a car, young chap, gave me a lift, and he said, "You must go to hospital. You must get seen to," because he could see all the blood and everything. But the crazy thing is, how did I get home? Nobody gave me CPR. Nobody gave me a shock. How I died, presumably, from loss of blood in a field from low blood pressure. But how did I get home? How did I get up again? How did I walk to that? But I did. So people say, well, maybe it was just God made it possible. But
This is very
yeah, it's
fascinating. Yeah, it's a very interesting account. I just want to go back, ask a few more follow up questions while recapping your experience. So it sounds like you had this accident in the field where you damaged your wrist all the way back to your elbow, which caused an extensive amount of bleeding. You fell
oh
down,
yeah,
hit your cheek, and kind of blacked out. And
yeah,
because of the blood loss, you believe that you've had this near death experience where you became the grass, you became virtually planet Earth. And
yeah, yeah.
then all of a sudden you're standing before these tall beings. What did these beings look like? Did they look angelic or did they just look something out of the ordinary?
They looked wise. They looked wise. And sometimes in a monastery, you get people you don't mess around with. You get people that you wouldn't cross. They look like the sort of people that you wouldn't cross. They look powerful and wise.
And you said the communication with these beings was telepathic.
Telepathic. Yeah.
You didn't hear it audibly. It was like within.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, from them, but their thoughts rather than their words. Yeah.
And it was from here that your Catholic faith began to kick in because you began to ask them to see Saint Augustine or
Yeah.
to see Mary, because
Yeah.
you believe that those were the ways into what you call heaven. And their response
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
you, however, was you must go to the light if you want to get into this place of peace and love and joy and heaven.
Yeah.
And when you thought about it, the light appeared to you, and you said that it was a zillion times brighter than the sun without burning you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were able to gaze upon it without squinting your eyes as we humans
Yeah.
do when
Yeah.
we look
Yeah.
up to the sun. And you had
Yeah.
this conversation with the light. And I noticed you used a word for the light. You referred to the light as God. What made you believe that the light was God?
Well, nowadays I don't call it God because God is a word over here that people associate with Christianity. And the God of Abraham that asked Abraham to sacrifice his son, all those things aren't what I associate with this being. But because of my religious upbringing, it was only natural for me to say, oh, that's God. So um, it's all the innuendos that come with the word God. So I tend to prefer, I think the God I met was male, but I tend to prefer thinking of it as the mother of everything, of every person and every plant and the whole world.
Many near death experiencers also refer to it sometimes as the source of all things
Yeah,
or just generally a higher power. And you said that
yeah, yeah.
this entity, this light, exuded nothing but pure love to you,
Love.
which is what many
Yeah,
near death experiencers talk about as well. And it was here where you, again, your Catholic faith kicked in and you asked to see Mary, which is a
yeah,
staple in the Catholic faith. And it responded to you, the light responded to you saying, I don't care how many Hail Marys you've said. All I care about is how much love is in your heart. Very
yeah, that's
profound,
exactly it.
deep words there. And I
Yeah,
think that's a parallel with many other near death experiences as well. Many times they come back saying that, you know, they love more or they were told to love more or how much did they love while they were having their near death experience. And you
yeah,
said coming back to your physical body, it was just a burst of light. And you got up
yeah,
and you traveled. You began walking without medical attention.
yeah.
Uh, you were told by someone to seek medical attention, but you don't believe that you even ever did that.
Well, got some clear memories. He said, you must promise to go to hospital. And I said, well, nobody's going to take me. And he said, I'm not letting you go until you promise. I promised. I went into the house, and it was a Catholic response. Oh, don't make a fuss. And I had another near-death experience in the house.
And what did that experience entail?
Um, I got in the bath, and the blood coloured it red with blood, and I bunged my clothes in the bath. When I went to bed, um, there was still very little blood in me. I needed liquids. I needed to drink, and I didn't know any of that. And so my heartbeat was getting shallower and shallower and faster. Then it just went into a spasm. We did the heart in A-level biology the following week, and he was describing ventricular fibrillation in detail, and I knew that's what had happened. When it stopped beating, I came out of my body. I could see my mum and dad, they bluey, purpley auras, with my brother, and I could walk through the wall, and I shot off. So if that hadn't happened, um, if I died, it would have been on them because they had a chance of taking me into the hospital, getting me some liquids, and probably a blood transfusion.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounded like you needed blood to be infused into
Yeah,
you. So what you're saying is when you went into the house, your heart stopped again and you had what sounds like an out of body experience where you could see your family and you were virtually penetrating through walls.
yeah, I was, and it was the old Catholic thing. Oh, don't make a fuss. And, um,
So all throughout this experience, your Catholic faith kept kicking in, even in the experience, and then while you were still in the earthly realm, or when you came back into the earthly realm.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, Mummy got up. Mummy got out of bed, and she's like, "Oh, what are you making a fuss about? Go back to bed. You know, I'm dying. I've lost so much blood. I passed out. Could I go to the hospital? No. Don't make a fuss. Deal with it in the morning."
and
So
when
she
you
took me to the doctor in the morning, and they put a butterfly on my arm, and it split open within 10 minutes, and it was oozing blood. And I got no treatment, basically. But that was a Catholic thing. That was like, don't make a fuss, get on with it.
now this light said something else to you. It kind of gave you clues about what would happen to you in the future, and you stated that around 2016 you became very depressed, and that there were
Yeah.
signs that this was from the warning of your near death experience. What exactly
It
were some of
was.
those signs again?
So I've been learning Spanish for 31 years. I was watching Buena Vista Club Social, and there's this one of the people, I forget his name, Compay Segunda, I think it was. He had this stick, and it was one of their voodoo things, and it was called the Lazarus. He called it, they all have names. This was Lazarus. And I thought, bloody hell. And everything's symbols in my life spoke to me. There was a film with a guy called Paul Walker called The Lazarus Mystery or something, and he was the main character. That year, at that time, on telly, and there were a few other things going on, and it came at a time when I was very depressed. And I started remembering the near death experience that so many years later. I must hang in there. I mustn't give up. I just wanted to kill myself every day for like years, for a couple of years. And I got through it.
Where did this near death experience take place? What region of the world?
Uh, East Devon, near where I live now.
Okay. And many near death experiencers, it sounds like you had some strong after effects when you came back from this, or at least you came
Oh,
back
yeah.
different from it. Many near death experiencers typically lack a fear of death, they have higher empathy levels, precognition, premonitions. Did you come back with anything different about you after this near death experience?
Well, as I say, I was doing biology and I had to get in on the bus. And all the people I'd speak to normally, I could read them. I could read their hearts. I knew what they were thinking. I knew what was going on with them. Everyone, and not just people I knew, but anyone. Um, I could see into people's energy fields. I had so much empathy because because I'd been isolated. I felt I was the only one that had ever been through this because I didn't know other people had. I felt alone, and all the evil energies around me and people, just stupid energies, felt like a threat to me. So,
Did you tell anyone about this near death experience afterwards?
yeah, I told mummy or my GP. They decided to put me on my Gactyl to treat. I said, but I'm at peace. I found joy and peace. So I'd stopped taking the Lagactyl. The after effects were like, beforehand I was religious and I was doing everything right. And now afterwards, I didn't care about the fear mentality. I didn't care about being tied up in knots. I just wanted to live my life. God had given me this life, and I was going to take it by the horns and live it. And that's the difference between the spiritual effects of an NDE and the religious thing that led up to mine.
And it sounds like when you said this to your parents, they didn't believe your account.
No, no, they didn't say I don't believe you, but they were making up their mind that I think he needs attention, medical attention.
You are also a part of the LGBTQ community, which
Yeah,
kind of ties in with religion and Christianity and Abrahamic religions in general. And very often, you know, just as well as I do, there's a bias against those who are of the LGBTQ community. However, when you had your near death experience, did you hear anything from the light about sexuality or sexual orientation?
not at all, nothing. The light was just totally accepting whatever you are, whoever you are. It would just accept it.
And it was just about the love that was in your heart. Hopefully,
Yeah,
with that,
yeah,
you could put love in other people's hearts.
yeah, yeah,
Very, very interesting. Now, we started the topic off with the religious question. You said that you were a Catholic, a God fearing Catholic, fear based Catholic. Your
yeah,
family was as well. After
yeah.
having this near death experience, what does Catholicism look like to you now?
Well, the real reason Sinead O'Connor burned a picture of the Pope was nothing to do with rejection of a religion. It was to do with the protest of our religion protecting paedophile priests. So I see it as a cancer, as a poison that's gone all over the world. But then most religions are. You can't just single out Christianity. I think there's the main religions. In my Spanish studies, I was going to translate the Quran from Spanish to English, and I didn't get past the first page because it was so racist, full of creating fear of hell. Your enemies will burn. It was just horrible. And then I thought, well, the Bible's like that as well, and the Torah. So, um, as LGBT, um, the most fascism, the most prejudice we get is from religious people.
So it's safe to say you're no longer a Catholic. What has the experience done to your spiritual level itself?
It's been amazing. I found it since COVID, last 5 years, I can access the light that I saw that day. In my life, I could do it before the NDE and after. So we were meditating all through COVID for an hour every night between 9 and 10. And it was the same bliss and the same love and the same ecstasy every night. I've not been very good lately. I've had a lot on and I've neglected my prayer life a little bit. Uh, to me, prayer is being one with the light, letting it in because it wants to come in, it wants to be with you.
Yes. Yes, very fascinating. And many near death experiencers say the same. If they were religious in the beginning, very often they would come back much more spiritual. Even if they clinged on to their religion, the experience itself made them much more spiritual and they understand the deeper meanings and the deeper importance in this world, which is to love one another and to love yourself. Very similar to the message you received while having your near death experience.
Yeah. The the paradox is that a Catholic, with all the Catholic beliefs and everything, would see the behaviour to be satanic after a near-death experience. It would be so different from the structured religious way of living. It would be like, I don't know, Carmina Burana. It would be satanic. But I cling to the knowledge that the light, the love, teaches me to love God totally and to love my neighbour as myself. Um, but in religious terms, um, they could easily say it's satanic. Pleasure, lack of rules, you can do nothing wrong, you must forgive yourself and others. So the structure isn't quite the same as the light that's at the center of it.
And I think the clear difference here is these are people with a belief system. You are an individual with an actual experience.
Yeah, yeah. There was a nun that said it was a cock and bull story that I'd been fighting and I had a black eye because I was fighting. And I thought she's waited all her life and she's been religious all her life. When she gets a chance of witnessing God, she denied him, like St. Peter denied Christ. And I thought that's just crazy, but that's how they are. That's how they're engendered to behave. So apparently I've been fighting. I hadn't fallen down, seen a light in the middle of the field. That's what she thought.
Yes, well,
I was lying.
something has to account for this absolute change in you, and
Yeah,
apparently it was this light.
it was. It was.
Very interesting. Well, Sinead, I want to thank you for coming on the Real Spiritual Talk podcast and sharing with us that absolutely fascinating account.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Sinead Madden.
Thank you. Bye.